In this video, I will show you how to simplify trig expressions involving sums and differences. So we will be using these formulas a bunch. So, the sine formula, the sine of a sum goes sine cosine plus cosine sine. So that means I will have sine x cosine pi plus cosine x sine pi. Well, the cosine of pi is -1. So this is going to wind up being, well, maybe I'll just show this step. So I have sine x times -1 plus cosine x times, well, the sine of pi, remember pi on the unit circle is right here. So cosine is an x value, that's why it was -1. Sine is a y value, which will be 0. So cosine of x times 0 is just 0, so this is basically gone. So that's just going to leave negative sine x. So there we simplified it. Okay? The cosine of a difference goes cosine cosine plus sine sine. So it's going to be cosine x cosine 2 pi, and it changes from subtraction to addition, and then it will be sine x sine 2 pi. That's just the formula. So of course 2 pi is right here on the unit circle, and the cosine at this position is 1. So I'm going to have cosine x times 1 plus sine x times, and the sine is a y value, right there it is 0. So that's really just gone, so that's just going to leave cosine x. Kabam. Now the tangent formula goes tangent plus tangent, well, okay, this is subtraction, so tangent minus tangent over 1 plus tangent tangent. So this is going to be tangent x minus tangent pi. Alright, the numerator keeps the same operation. But then it's going to be 1 plus tangent x tangent pi. So tangent x, there's not really anything I can do with that. But the tangent of pi, okay, pi is right here. Let's see. This is an x value of tangent is y over x. So this is a y value of 0 and an x value of -1. So y over x. 0 divided by -1 is 0. So this is going to be -0. Okay, over 1 plus, okay, and tangent of x, okay, can't do anything with that, and we already decided that tangent of pi was going to be 0. So 0, no need to write that down, and tangent of x times 0, that's also 0, so that's going to be gone. So that's really just going to leave tangent x over 1. So really that's just tangent x when you think about it. That's the final answer. So looking at the pattern in problem number 16, I see how it goes sine, cosine, cosine, sine. That is the formula for the sine of a subtraction problem, the sine of a difference. So this must be the sine of something minus something, and the two angles involved in this problem are 25 and 35. So this must be the sine of 25 minus 35. okay, because it goes sine, cosine, cosine, sine. That's how the sine formula works. Now, that's going to make the sine of negative 10. And we're just supposed to simplify, and that's as far as we can go anyway, so thank goodness. That's the final answer. So that was really it for the simplify problems. The rest will be mixed practice of all the different types kind of all together. So looking at number 17, okay, right, this is really stretched out horizontally on me. Okay, well, let's deal with this part first. We have angle U is between pi over 2 and pi. So let's do a little sketch of that. Okay, so between pi over 2 and pi, that is the second quadrant. So I'm just going to do a little sketch in the second quadrant like this. Okay, tangent is y over x. So y is going to be 5 and x is going to be negative 12. All right, the quadrant tells me whether or not they will be positive or negative. So this is a nice little picture of angle U. So we should label it really clearly so there's no question. All right, don't forget this is problem number 17, even though it's off the screen, because this problem is very stretched out. Okay, the next problem, angle V is between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So that is in the fourth quadrant. All right, I'm going to try to get these sort of next to each other. So I'm going to draw this diagram in the fourth quadrant, like this. Okay, now I'm noticing that this is cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function. So, remembering that sine is y over r, cosecant must be r over y. All right, the reciprocal of the sine function. So that tells me that 25 is the radius. Oh, you know what? I never found the radius back there. I'll go back to that in a minute. And the y value must be negative 7. All right, we know it has to be negative because it's down. Okay, now, might as well go ahead and label that. So we're talking about angle V over here, angle V. So this is angle V. Now, I need to find the missing values. Okay, for angle U, I need the R. 5, 12, 13. I know that the radius is 13. The triple here, I have 7 and 25. The other one is 24. And it'll be positive 24 in this quadrant. If you don't have some of these triples memorized, just do the Pythagorean theorem real quick and you'll figure out that this is 24. Okay, so now we have the x, the y, and the r. So now let's go back and do the formula. So cosine of a sum goes cosine, cosine, minus sine, sine. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm doing cosine u, cosine v, minus sine u, sine v. Okay, so cosine of u, that's x over r, so that's negative 12 over 13. Cosine of v, that's x over r, so 24 over 25. minus sine u. All right, it's hard to tell what letter it is. So sine u, that is y over r. So that's 5 over 13. And then sine v, negative 7 over 25. So it's just a matter of simplifying this down. So that gives me negative 288 over 325 when I multiply these together. And when I multiply these together, I get negative 35 over 325. Now minus and negative is addition. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to addition. And that's going to make this, all right, they already have like denominators. So this is negative 253 over 325. So that should be the final answer for number 17. For number 18, theta is between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So we are talking about the fourth quadrant. So I'm just going to draw a little sketch into the fourth quadrant. Boom, like so. Okay, tangent is y over x. So that tells me that this is negative 5 and x is 12. Alright, the quadrant tells me which one of these has to be positive and which one's negative. I've memorized the Pythagorean triple 5, 12, 13, so I know that the radius here is going to be 13. So that's a nice little sketch of angle theta, which really goes like that. Anyway, so secant of 2 theta. Well, I'm going to come back to secant of 2 theta because I don't have a formula for secant of 2 theta. I have a formula for the cosine of 2 theta. Okay, so I'm going to start by finding out what the cosine of 2 theta is. And secant is just the reciprocal of cosine. So once I find this, I'll just turn it upside down and it'll be secant. So cosine of 2 theta, there are actually 3 formulas for the cosine of 2 theta. I always just use the first one unless I need one of the other ones for some reason. So I'm going to do cosine squared minus sine squared like I always do. So this is going to be cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. Okay, well, cosine is x over r, so that's 12 over 13. So I'm going to have 12 over 13 squared, and then sine is y over r, so it's going to be negative 5 over 13 squared. So this will be 144 over 169 minus 25 over 169. So that's 119 over 169. Now remember, this is all cosine 2 theta is equal to that. So that means that the secant of 2 theta must be 169 over 119. For number 19, I just need to evaluate the cosecant of 105. So, first of all, 105 is not one of my special angles. The special angles that I know all about are, I know all about 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. However, I'm noticing that if I were to add 45 plus 60, that would give me 105. So this problem would be the same thing as having the cosecant of 45 plus 60. Now, however, I don't know anything about cosecant other than that cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function. So what I'm going to do is I will first find the sine of 45 plus 60, and then whenever I get, I'll just do the reciprocal of that, and that'll be cosecant. So the sine formula, when I have the sine of a sum, it goes sine, cosine, plus cosine sine. So I'm going to do sine 45 cosine 60, all right, plus cosine 45 sine 60. Okay, now I've memorized all of these values, and hopefully you have too. So sine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. Cosine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. And sine of 60 is radical 3 over 2. Okay, so if you have not memorized these values, make sure you memorize them. So this is going to give me radical 2 over 4 plus radical 6 over 4. Alright, now remember, everything I've done so far has been sine. So so far I know that sine of 45 plus 60 is equal to, and I'm just going to go ahead and now put these together, radical 2 plus radical 6 over 4. Okay, so that means, how much space? I have tons of space over here. So that means that the cosecant, which is the reciprocal of this, okay, so the cosecant of 45 plus 60 must equal the reciprocal of this. So that's going to be 4 over radical 2 plus radical 6. And we're just going to leave it like that. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.